You're listening to the Unsung Podcast, where we talk about albums that we think are unsung classics, and then you guys tell us if we're right or wrong. This is the Unsung Podcast. You're listening to the Unsung Podcast, and this is episode number 41. On last week's episode, we were talking about the album Who Kill by Tuneyards. It was a very close vote, but the public have decided that this record does not make it into our discography, so thank you very much to everybody who voted. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the album City by Strapping Young Lad. Before we get into that though, just a wee reminder, because I know you probably love it. If you enjoy this episode or any other episode that we do, then we would really appreciate it if you could just tell a friend. We're not asking for much, just tag them or even send it to them via text message if you still do that, WhatsApp message. Just send it to them, get it to them in some way. If you can do that, that gets us another listener, and that's pretty much all we want. We just want a couple more listeners. In fact, that's a lie. We want loads more listeners because we want to be on top of the world. But yeah, if you could do that, that would be superb. And now, let's get on with the show.
Hi, you're listening to the Unsung Podcast. I am your host, Mark Fraser, and I'm joined by two men who danced in the room like Theresa May did today at the Tory Party conference.
I'd like to say hello in the style of Strapping Young Lad, which is... I've got to edit it, so Smee's got to deal with it.
To my right is Glasgow's biggest ABBA fan, is Chris Cusack.
You can't disprove that either.
I mean, I don't even feel compelled to disprove it. I frickin' love ABBA. I'll still take you to the deck if anyone says that Lay All Your Lovin' Me isn't the best pop song ever written.
Does anybody not like ABBA?
It's a good question. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that doesn't like ABBA.
Yeah, interesting.
I went to a club night recently that was just ABBA. Like, they weren't even kidding on. They were like,
just ABBA.
Well, we're just going to play ABBA. It was
fuck it, I know.
Mobbed. And everybody having a lovely time. And by the second or third time through the same songs, they were still having a lovely time. Nobody cared. And it does make you wonder why you even bother.
Yeah. My flatmate, who's notoriously into very heavy music, turned around to me the other day in a pub and said, I seen an advert on TV the other day and it was an ABBA song, and I thought, I really want to fucking listen to ABBA. And I listened to ABBA and I was like, oh my god, they're so fucking good. I was like, yeah.
Is he only just getting it?
Well, I think he knew it, but I don't think he knew it in his soul.
Yeah. To my right tonight. Was that your left?
I don't know.
Well, you're clearly not to my left.
Straight ahead of me.
I mean, I can lie to the public if that's what you want me to do for the sake of geometry. Yeah, to my right is David, who's wearing a t-shirt that he wears now and again, but it's one of my favourites, and it's covered in little white dots and sort of looks like the night sky on a beautiful, crisp, clear
in a very
winter evening.
In a very sort of rigid pattern. If there was a designer, then this is what the sky would look like.
Your voluptuous body allows it to wrinkle and blend.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
The luminescent smear of the Milky Way.
I think it looks like
not the chocolate bar. Hey,
I think it looks like a tablecloth in maybe like a cafe at a caravan park. That's what I would say.
If I dropped a chip on that, I'd eat it.
Thanks.
A very interesting observation.
Standard. It's a very interesting standard by which to judge anybody. But nah, if I dropped a chip on David right now, I'd eat it.
Sweet.
If you let me. If I moved fast enough.
Okay, what song are we? What song? What album are we doing?
This one that you picked. David.
Yeah, I mean, you picked it.
Did I pick this? I thought it was Chris.
Well, to be honest, the two of us both excitedly went, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I think so. It's City by Strapping Young Lad. That's how it goes.
That's basically it, yeah.
Mark, let's get this out the road. Had you listened to Strapping Young Lad before this?
Never.
Right, because I use Strapping Young Lad to shock people. So if I was ever trying to musically intimidate or show off, like, look how edgy my music tastes are, I would put on Oh My Fucking God by Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you actually listen to this? I'd be like, yes, I am very out there.
I am musically woke.
So what did you think about it, man?
I fucking love this record.
Because honestly, this is the most fun I've had researching an episode maybe ever. Like, not all the Strapping Young Lad stuff's great, but being forced to walk about listening to Strapping Young Lad and do mundane shit like buying a coffee or like tying your shoelaces whilst the guy in your head is just going absolutely berserk.
Yeah.
With the most saturated metal that I think I've ever heard. Like he is the Phil Spector of metal production.
Yeah.
And like it is just so odd to just do everyday chores with that in your head, and the fact that other people have no idea what you're listening to unless they can hear it a wee bit. I don't know how loud it was.
I mean, I think it's not the heaviest thing I've ever heard, but it's one of the most extreme things I've ever heard.
What's heavier?
Let's
actually define heavy.
What defines heavy?
Yeah.
I always wonder that. Like, there's lots of ways you can define heavy. I think Slayer are heavy in a fast way.
Some of Strapping Young Lad sounds like Slayer.
Yeah, and they sing about Satan.
That's heavy.
That's fucking gormless.
No, but like, so speed is one aspect of the heavy spectrum.
True.
And Strapping Young Lad definitely.
Oh yeah.
Go with that. I would say groove quite often.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because you get like death metal, which is really heavy on the speed, but very light on the groove. And I've never been much of a death metal fan.
Yeah, it's a bit tiring, isn't it?
That's why Pantera are kings, like
groove metal.
The heavy, yeah, exactly, the kings of groove metal.
Again, Strapping Young Lad, huge chunks of groove metal.
Definitely have groove. I think maybe they actually go more into the groove on other records, but they've definitely got bits of it on this. Chug, gent, full chug. Obviously Meshuggah are kings of chug, but like, listen to Detox, and I think that's possibly one of the chuggiest songs ever written.
You've got the kind of black metal like shrillness,
just that extreme oral assault
cacophony, which they totally have, especially in this album. The high end saturation, the like multi-layered vocal screams and synths and pads just way up at the top. Like, I think they like tick almost all the boxes. Okay, what they don't do is the frantic kind of like convergy, locusty, Dillinger escape planning mathcore, maybe.
Yeah, they don't have the same kind of aggression as power violence. Like, they don't, like, Nails are really fucking super heavy.
But
they don't have the.
I mean, Oh My Fucking God is Oh My Fucking God.
It's a different kind of heavy, and they're not as caustic as a lot of grindcore bands, like, Weekend Naturals or Magruder Grind.
Just for the purposes of the public, I'm going to edit in the opening 20 seconds of Oh My Fucking God right now, just so we can be like, it's not that heavy.
I didn't say it wasn't that heavy. I'm just saying it's not the heaviest thing I've ever heard. It's still pretty fucking heavy. You can't argue with the fact this is not heavy. It's fucking heavy, this record.
They don't. I suppose the other thing they don't really do is doom.
Yeah,
they don't. No, actually, I don't agree with that. Man, the last track in this album sounds at points like Old Man Gloom.
Yeah, I think
Neurosis.
Spirituality has definitely post-metal aspects.
First 2.5 minutes are very Neurosis-y.
So they cover a lot of the heavy bases.
We should probably differentiate a few things here. So Strapping Young Lad is ostensibly Devin Townsend. He did the first album, but more or less by himself, not entirely by himself, but more or less. He also has just numerous other projects, including the Ocean Machine, the Devin Townsend Project, and he's taken part in a whole bunch
Devin Townsend Band,
Devin Townsend.
Yeah, loads of side projects. Frankly, none of them are as good as Strapping Young Lad. He has a penchant for the cornball at times.
He fucking loves that. Have you ever did you ever listen to Ziltoid the Omniscient? That shit is fucking bonkers.
Ziltoid the Omniscient is about an interdimensional alien being, which is basically a sock puppet, literally a sock puppet that he used. He used to interview people with that sock puppet as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
And this Ziltoid the Omniscient is come to Earth as part of a quest for the ultimate cup of coffee, but he declares Earth's coffee to be fetid, I believe is the word that is used, and Earth is attacked by his peoples. And there's a sequel as well, Z2, The Dark Matters or something like that. And it's basically like a grandiose rock opera.
Yeah,
it's completely barmy, but Devin Townsend doesn't take metal seriously.
Well, that's what I think. One thing that is key to Strapping Young Lad, more than maybe his band or projects and bands, is the sense of humour, and that's what maybe makes it stand out from a lot of pretty much 99% of other metal, or at least good metal. There's a lot of humorous metal out there.
It's not
fucking terrible.
Yeah.
This doesn't take itself seriously. The first record is called Heavy as a really heavy thing. Great. But it's not stupid either.
No, it's not comedy.
There's a side project. There's a side project. The other guys in Strapping Young Lad formed a band called Zimmer's Hole. And they just sound like Strapping Young Lad, but even more ridiculous and sort of without the Devin Townsend direction, and it just goes over that. Like, it doesn't have a sense of humour. It's just fucking stupid. It's just a bit annoying.
Like idiotic.
Yeah, just like teenage boy sort of humour.
Right.
I mean, this is often classed. Well, this is classed genre-wise as extreme metal, which is true. When I was doing the research for this, the thing that struck me when I was listening to all of the other stuff is that Devin Townsend is an extreme man. Like no matter what lens he chooses to use for his music, it's always taken to the absolute ridiculous degree, the most extreme degree. Like, a lot of his Devin Townsend project stuff is just it's beyond power metal.
Yeah,
it's bloody crazy. The guy's
I think
insane.
he's just one of these guys that has an unbelievable sort of work ethic, ridiculous numbers of ideas. I think it was in 1998 or 99 that he checked himself into a mental health institute, and he was diagnosed with bipolar, and he said himself that explained a hell of a lot, and it gave him a sort of clarity as to why. So he was coming out with extreme metal like Strapping Young Lad, and then he was also doing sort of new wave prog stuff on the other side, and he realised there was like two distinct parts of his personality trying to get out in his creativity.
He kind of backtracked on that a wee bit in the years after, though. So he described like Strapping Young Lad versus Devin Townsend project, Devin Townsend band, as being like kind of yin and yang. Strapping Young Lad was his dark side, albeit humorous at times, and the other one was sort of indulgent and grandiose and a bit pompous and singy and sometimes quite sweet. It's not nearly as good. It's really quite corny. But the thing about the bipolar disorder, there's a kind of myth around the album Alien, the fourth album that he brought out, which, by the way,
Strapping Young Lad,
he says that, which by the way he says is his favourite I said it's not the definitive Strapping Young Lad album. He thinks this is the seminal one, but
it's the one he's proudest of.
It's the one he's proudest of. But there was a mythology that sprung up saying that he'd stopped taking his medication to do with his bipolar diagnosis around that time to try and create a more powerful and edgy album.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what happened, according to him. What he said was that for years he'd been on this bipolar medication, and it started to dawn on him that he didn't actually think he was bipolar. He had gone for a large part of his life never doing drugs, and then he did some when he was with Steve Vai. He was a singer on Steve Vai's album 1993. What's it called? Sex and Religion.
Sex and Religion.
Sex and Religion! But then he did a stint with the Wild Hearts, and if anything is going to make you hopelessly addicted to drugs, it's being in a band.
The Wild Hearts.
The Wild Hearts. And he came back from that and was a drug user, and regularly a drug user, and the Wild Hearts are serious about that shit. So
he was young at this age. He was only in his very early 20s.
There's some videos of him playing live. I think it's Reading. It's quite funny to watch. He's a man of many haircuts. But he felt actually that come the time of the Alien album that he'd been misdiagnosed, and he wanted to actually try and come off this. The problem was he did that without stopping the drink and drugs, and so I think he's been clean now for about 10 or 12 years, and now he doesn't take them because he doesn't think he is bipolar. He thinks that it was literally just that he was overdoing it and particularly susceptible to the kind of the effects of the drugs, because he said as a child he had very acute problems with anxiety. The whole intensity of Strapping Young Lad, he said, sprung up as a way for him to sort of to demonstrate his nervousness, and to basically, he was like, if I'm louder and scarier and nastier than the thing I'm scared of, then I feel safe. And that was why he was like, that's why it's so extreme. He was like, because it was my way of dealing with that anxiety. But it turns out he was like, I don't think I was bipolar. I think it was a combination of the drink and drugs. And when he stopped the medication, yes, he had a really bad time around the time of Alien, and yes, he was in an institution in '98 after that diagnosis. But yeah, he thinks ultimately that wasn't the underlying problem, which was quite interesting, because that is sort of the common mythology. But when you actually see him asked about it, he kind of tries to burst that bubble a wee bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this record is definitely extreme, and it is louder and scarier than most things.
See, before we jump on as well, can I just say, we're talking about his sense of humour. Did you guys look into Punky Brewster at all?
I did listen to a little bit to the record.
So he did an album after the first Strapping Young Lad album under the name Punky Brewster, cooked on phonics, which apparently took him 10 days to write, 6 days to record, and 12 hours to mix. It's like kind of punky, metally, not amazing. But like, there's loads of stupid shit in it, and some of the credits, like the credit sheet on that album, is worth reading alone if you look it up on Wikipedia. A couple of the highlights were one musician credited as Lord Stenchlower, Brittle Sword of Baphomet's Greasy Spoon, and Pete O'Shit, Old Gay Punk Dude, Baby Onions, Chauffeur to the Stars. The guy is bananas. He's out there. But yeah, in amongst that comedy is some really intense music. The follow-up album to the one that we're doing, Strapping Young Lad,
one, yeah.
There's a kind of was it an old wives' tale that it's a response to the 9/11 attacks. It wasn't a response to the 9/11 attacks. It was an expression of the kind of anxiety and the state of the national psyche in America at the time. It's actually probably the weakest album. I think
I would probably say so.
Aye, possibly. It's got the song Aftermath was the song I heard from it. That's a really good track. But there's a few duffers, and
he describes the production on it as murky and dreadful. It's got a lot more singing on it than the other ones. The opening of it as well, it's a song called Dire/Consequences, is like this really big euphoric thing, and it promises a lot, but it actually is more of a death metal album. It's got a lot of like Pantera bits as well, loads of Slayery bits, and the track 2, Relentless especially. It's not a particularly fun album. It's like the one that during the research was the least fun to work through.
It's got the song Rape Song, which sounds like it's going to be close to the bone, knowing him and like humour.
Yeah.
lyrics, and it's like, oh, he just really hates rapists. And you're like, okay, I mean, fair, but you know,
comment.
I don't need a song about it. You know, it's fine.
Given. Yeah. Mind you don't want to say that as a given.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Hey, let's look at the American Senate this week.
Yeah, very true.
And just, I suppose, for the sake of, what's the word?
Certainly not brevity.
For the sake of completeness, Heavy's a really heavy thing. It apparently only took about a week. He did almost everything on it. There's a lot of drum machines on it. The drums,
I quite like how chaotic it is.
I think it's actually really good.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got friends that prefer it, just because it's that totally unfiltered thing.
Yeah, I like it because of that. It's like a true look into a musician that's trying to push, and sometimes it doesn't work out that well for him, but it's kind of endearing in that sense.
It's I mean, he just basically regards it as a bunch of demos, a glorified bunch of demos, and when it only sold 143 copies in its first 6 months. The record label Century Media Records, which by the way sounds like you're kind of overstating the fact that Century Media Records albums but they released it, and he said the press release was a load of bollocks. They were calling it like a founding record of a genre or something like that. One thing about it, other than being as OTT as he possibly could be, apparently, is the drums on it are
Drum Kit from Hell.
Mm-hmm. Yep. His favourite metal band is Meshuggah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's his name? Is it Frederick? Is that the Meshuggah drummer's name?
No, it's Hake.
Okay. It must have been
Thomas
Hake.
Yeah, he's credited as drum assistant on it.
Alright. Well, he's there's you can tell there's a bit of cross pollination. There's some of the strapping stuff sounds like some of the later Meshuggah stuff as well.
Yeah, and certainly on Alien as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You're like, I think Alien's a fairly good record.
Alien's a good record.
A lot of really interesting ideas.
You can see why he likes it. It's a little bit joyless. That's the only thing about it.
Yeah, that's it. It lacks that sense of humour. And it also, I don't know, it doesn't quite have a focus.
Yeah, it doesn't.
The song Skexus on that is fucking brilliant. There's a low riff that comes in at about 30 seconds into that song. Oh, it's so good. Just that one bit. It's just a fucking class.
Storm is fucking amazing as well, man. The song is so good.
There's a single off that as well. Love? Question mark.
Love?
Yeah, that's like the biggest one, I think.
Yeah, it was. Apparently, Machine Head years later got accused of ripping off the riff from that, and then Devin Townsend, he was like, "It doesn't matter because I ripped that off from Yes." There's loads of weird stuff. There's like the song "Info Dump" at the end has a pulse in it, which apparently is Morse code for the word Just feel like the guy's fucking mad. Also, the song "Zen" on that album, they made a video of it, but never released the video, except it appears in the movie Shoot 'Em Up with Clive
Owen.
And a bit in Shoot 'Em Up where he's trying to get a baby to stop crying. The baby sees a strapping young lad video and stops crying, so that he just uses this video to shut the baby up at any point.
That's an excellent fact.
That's a really good Easter egg.
Yeah, I was going to maybe use that for the Nexus, but I found something better.
Oh well, should we do the Nexus now?
Yes. Can I just quickly say, Heavy is a Heavy thing. If you're listening to it, have a listen to the track In the Rainy Season, because about 10 or 12 seconds into that song, it completely overloads horribly, like completely overloads. I've not yet listened to it on a system that could deal with the bass on it, which is just, I mean, it's kind of hilarious that he did it so badly. But yeah, let's do the Nexus. And get this, I'm kind of psyched about doing the music this week because I found some wee bits and bobs that I'm going to use, and I think it's going to be a blast. So here you go.
I'm excited.
Oh, good.
Prick.
Oh, you feel stupid now,
No,
Mark, don't you? That was truly
try and feign
excellent.
enthusiasm.
That was really good. I enjoyed that.
Says Mark, checking his fucking phone.
I'm getting my Nexus ready, actually.
He didn't do his homework.
Did not do my homework. I was too busy listening to the Strap Young Lad discography and having a great fucking time doing it.
Hey, David Boy, do you want to do it or la?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Cool.
So it'll be long-winded.
It shall.
And longer than it should be. So we've already mentioned that Devin Townsend.
Can we vote for a winner, by the way, this week
Nope.
of the Nexus?
Yeah.
Nope.
That's just because you're
Mark.
confident. Aren't you? I did this while we sat down. But Devin Townsend played with the Wild Hearts, as we've already mentioned.
Yes.
I fucking love it. I actually really want to do a Wild Hearts record at some point.
Yeah.
This is the third time you said that on an
I know
episode.
that, but, you know.
And Ginger from the Wild Hearts, I remember, formed a supergroup called Super Shit 666. But the shit had a $sign for the S.
Is that not a Kerrang compilation?
I think it was, yeah. Just the most generic riff ever, but it sounded really sludgy. And that was with Dragon from Backyard Babies. Remember them?
Yeah, I do.
Terrible. And
They were a good band. Fuck off.
I never
Mark.
But then
Just pipe down.
Nick Anderson from the Helicopters, genuinely a fucking
They're a fucking great band.
tremendous
Fucking great
band.
band. Yeah.
The Helicopters went on tour back in the day with a then unknown band called The Hives.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. We're both from the same place.
Yeah, and The Hives, I mean, they had a lot of weird things going on, and their road to fame was weird.
Did
but
they?
they were signed by,
I didn't know.
like there was a small band and they did a lot of things, and then Alan McGee saw them
Is it
on
Alan
German
McGee that saw
TV
them?
and
Wow.
signed them to his new Pop Tones label, and they basically re-released. They released
that
like
I
a
had.
best of
Yeah,
album. It was
yeah.
like that was actually a best of compilation.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alan McGee. I don't know if you've ever heard of
I
him.
believe he was at King Tut's once and saw a band, but you wouldn't hear
I've
about
heard
it much.
rumors.
up here.
You should.
Yeah.
They should make more of
They
that.
don't really talk about it much, yeah.
And he discovered a band called Oasis. Anyway, apparently Oasis at one point had Zach Starkey as their drummer. Zach Starkey is son of Ringo Starr.
Okay.
And he would also been a drummer in The Who. But yeah, Ringo Starr, father of Zach Starkey, was in the Beatles. I don't know if you've heard of the Beatles. Have you ever heard the band Hollywood Vampires?
Is this still related to
The rock supergroup featuring Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp and Joe Perry. They actually played the Hydro last year.
There is
So
a
they
lot
exist.
there is a lot of misogyny in that group.
So anyway, both Zach Starkey and Dave Grohl appeared on the Hollywood Vampires debut album, Hollywood Vampires.
Okay, Dave.
So
That's
there you
not
are.
Nice.
Can I just say a little bit of trivia?
Mhm.
We're recording this the day after the band Deaf Heaven played in Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go yet?
I was going to, and then I forgot I had to help my friend move flat, so I didn't go. I had a ticket and everything.
Nah, Lord. Well, apparently the guitarist from Deaf Heaven is a completely unironic, enormous fan of Oasis.
Well, that's
And I
Fine.
mean, like,
Okay.
to the point where people have started to spot that some of the guitar pieces are lifted from Oasis songs, but passed through. Well, they're now like almost like a shoegaze band. but-
Yeah.
yeah.
That's quite-
Anyway,
that's quite
so
funny.
my Nexus, I think you shall hopefully
Enjoy.
like this one. Strapping Young Lad. At one point, and I don't know if it's actually been released, but they recorded, and a few people have testified to this. They covered "What's New Pussycat."
I would like to see that.
Me too. Tom Jones, who performed the most famous version of What's New Pussycat, also recorded a song that I know David's a big fan of called Mama Told Me Not to Come with the Stereophonics.
An absolute classic. I see we've both managed to go down Brit rock.
Yeah, totally.
Moves here. Great.
The Stereophonics performed the theme tune to a TV show called The Office
Mm-hmm.
in the UK, the original Office. I don't know, what's the theme tune to the American one?
It's some custom-made thing.
Right, okay. Well,
some jolly American
the sheer
music
banality and the beige, suicidal unremarkableness of the Stereophonics.
It's a cover of Rod Stewart. It's can't remember the name of the song,
but it fits so perfectly. Ricky Gervais, the writer and star of The Office, also wrote and starred in the show Extras, and in season 2 of Extras, one of the episodes featured Mr. Chris Martin of the band Coldplay. And Coldplay, and specifically Chris Martin, did a Radio 1 live lounge session during which there was a slightly embarrassing moment when it turned out that Dave Grohl had fed a question to a fan in the audience regarding asking Chris Martin what his favourite AC/DC song was. So the fan asked this, and Chris Martin replied Thunderstruck and started playing it live.
Chris Martin played Thunderstruck live
On the piano.
And at the behest of Dave Grohl.
At the behest of Dave Grohl.
Wow.
There you go.
That was good. I'm proud of you. Well done.
That was alright.
Yeah,
I tried hard at that one.
I think I've got a pretty good one.
Oh, if I was just going to play the music. Right, sorry, carry on.
So, Devin Townsend, he did the vocals, as we've discussed, on Steve Vai record.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Vai played guitar on the record Hang Cool Teddy Bear by Meatloaf.
What a name.
Wow.
That's amazing.
We've gone to Meatloaf.
By Meatloaf.
Fucking excellent.
Also on that record is, among others, such as Brian May, John Bon Jovi, is Jack Black, who's in
David, I can't believe you don't own
Tenacious
that.
D.
I can't believe you don't own that.
And Dave Grohl appears as the devil in the video for Tribute by Tenacious D.
That is pretty good as well.
Yeah, that was not too bad. Yeah, give you that one.
Great.
Fucking Meatloaf, mate.
I had fun doing that one. I'm not
good.
going to lie, as I'm sure you can tell. A couple of bits of like basic Townsend housekeeping. The first offer that he got for a record deal from Roadrunner was rescinded by Roadrunner because the head of Roadrunner said that's just noise.
Yeah, the head of a metal label.
It's like just like so rich, man.
Do you remember Roadrunner, like how all pervasive they were for like in the early 2000s?
They had some they had some really good compilations for a while as well.
Absolutely. That's because they had everybody. They had fucking Slipknot, Sepultura, Soulfly,
Cold Chamber.
And by the way, the common theme in that is that every one of those albums was subject to a really fucking unnecessary digipack reissue with a bunch of crap tunes hammered on the end.
I think they were all produced by Ross Robinson as well.
And I remember Amen's debut album was on Roadrunner.
Was it?
Yeah, the second one was on Virgin.
And then they fell out.
Another Ross Robinson one.
But I might want to do that second one at one point.
It's really good, isn't it? That's the one with the Price of Reality on, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a good record.
Other
really
bits and bobs
that
I want you to throw in here.
Very hard.
Obviously, like Townsend cited Judas Priest and Frank Zappa as influences. Weirdly, he also cited Jane's Addiction as a big influence, and stuff like Ween. Like I think it was it maybe Alien or maybe even The New Black. He wrote it travelling across Canada.
Yeah, he's spoken a lot about how much he likes Ween. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a Ween cover on one of the records he's done.
He's an eclectic guy. A big part of Strapping Young Lad is his stage presence, and if you get a chance, it's worth watching some of their videos. There's also a class video that I sent Mark of them playing Devin Townsend Project in Italy with an entire orchestra.
Which is just completely fucking over the top in every single way. Have you seen the video of them playing it at Download 2006? And he says basically he kind of makes a point of saying that this band shouldn't be on a stage this big in front of all these people, and it just fucking goes into All Hail the New Flesh. You're like, what the fuck? He's just standing there pure fucking wild-eyed and crazy.
Bananas. In amongst these other projects, he's got a project called Casualties of Cool, which is the genre is down as space country.
Have you heard it? It's fucking nuts, man.
I listened to it, yeah, it's bizarre.
I was like, what?
And he's also gone on the record recently in a whole bunch of interviews to say he's trying to rustle up somehow $10 million to embark on a prog musical project called The Moth. And he's not gone into too many other details, but it does sound quite telling. He's got an album called Humour. The Hummer, sorry, which actually, contrary to its name, is really pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it's instrumental, isn't it?
It's an incredibly ambient, like almost a machine noise album at points, and I didn't expect it to be up to much, and I was really quite pleasantly surprised.
I think he released that after The Sun was born, didn't he?
Dead Hypnotic. Well, it was 2007, so yeah, that would make sense. He's been with the same, his girlfriend, now his wife, since he was 19.
Yeah.
He's also produced a good few records, like
has he?
metal-wise. Soilwork. I think he produced A Lamb of God as well at one point.
That would make sense, yeah.
And like just a few sort of metal things like Darkest Hour and stuff like that.
So what Darkest Hour record did they do? Because I fucking love that band.
Yeah.
Was that the latest one?
No, it was like back in 2005, 2006.
Oh, was that on Doing Ruin, or was it?
It was Deliver Us.
That's a fucking great
and
record.
He played some guitar on that album.
Yeah, he did. He's got a fucking amazing solo on one of the songs on that record, now I think about it.
That's what I really like about Strapping Young Lad compared to Devin Townsend project.
It's a lack of solos.
No guitar solos.
No,
apart from on the new
not
Black.
Strictly True. Yeah, that I was going to say, like, one of the things that makes City so fucking brilliant and so odd in metal is that it's got no solos in it.
Yeah, just like St. Anger, Metallica's best album.
Well, fucking hell. So the new Black, Mark just kind of touched on there as well, came out in 2006. So Strapping Young Lad's done. That was its last album, and it probably makes sense because it's not a particularly good album. The songs in it are a bit shorter. I mean, the track Decimator, the first one, is really lame. There's a track in it called You Suck, but the lyrics are pure cringeworthy. Also, track 7, Far Beyond Metal, is probably his most overt bit of like comedy rock. The lyrics are sort of pastiche metal. Was it one of them I wrote down was, "Oh, you ironic pop rock fuck, don't you fuck with metal." There you go. All right, thanks, Devin. It's kind of like bad thrash, and I think it kind of shows that he was done. The only redeeming feature of it is it's got a fucking great cover of a Melvins track called Zodiac that I don't think was even on the original issue, but it's worth. I think Zodiac appeared on one of their EPs as well. And forget the album, but the cover of Zodiac is really good and was a much easier link to the Nexus if you'd really checked, Mark.
Well, mine was still good though, so fuck you.
Hi guys, sorry to interrupt your listening, but I have to tell you a little secret. I actually just bought a new amp. It's been a dream amp of mine that I've wanted for ages, partly because of Strapping Young Lad actually, because I want my guitar to sound as absolutely fucking chuggy as Devin's. I bought the amp off Mark, so we're keeping it in the family here, but these habits are expensive, so if you could fund my dream to sound like Devin Townsend. But more importantly, if you
that's a terrible reason. That's like, can you help Dave buy shit he doesn't need?
Exactly. That's true. More importantly, if you could help us pay for things like recording time, equipment, hosting, all these things, then that would be really wonderful. Just the very smallest amount helps, but the very largest amount helps more. Thanks. Just go to unsungpod.net/donate.
We got you.
Do Nata.
So, yeah, City. Tune by tune, man. Velvet Kevorkian. Do you know who Jack Kevorkian was?
No.
Jack Kevorkian was a euthanasia activist who famously said dying is not a crime, and that's named after him. I don't know what the Velvet part's all about, but
there's chanting in this track, and that's something that David uses quite a lot throughout his entire discography. He's fond of different kinds of
he likes wee snippets. Yeah, he likes an uneasy vocal kind of interlude, which is something that can be done pretty badly by metal bands, but I think it works quite well with
Strapping Young Lad. Does it quite a lot in the solo stuff
because it's quite industrial. Strapping Young Lad, you know, it's like the way Ministry used to use it, and there's a lot of bits and bobs in these albums that are really reminiscent of Ministry.
Yeah, that sort of does have industrial touches, but also that chaotic industrial thing that sort of Ministry are obviously the kings of.
Then another couple of names that come up quite often with Strapping Young Lad, Fear Factory, obviously. Bits in Nine Inch Nails. He actually sampled a Nine Inch Nails drum beat on one track, a drum beat from Happiness and Slavery. White Zombie took quite a lot for Strapping Young Lad, including I think the tongue-in-cheek thing.
And also like the sampling as well, like the movie sampling
exactly,
and stuff like that.
Pantera as well. There's also like weird parallels, like the Devin Townsend project and this dreadful album he did called Physicist kind of resembles some of the stuff that Filter did, quite saturated but with a kind of big tuneful giant rock vocal. So track 2, All Hail the New Flesh. Even the name All Hail the New Flesh is
do you know,
so like
metal. Overall this album to me is just perfectly succinct.
Yeah, it's only 39 minutes.
Yeah, that's quite long for me.
Really?
As a punk,
but he's a punk. But for like a progressive extreme metal album, this is short.
Most of the songs are like 5-6 minutes long.
It's 9 songs, including a cover, by the way, as well, which is totally like odd.
Let's go through it and then we can talk about our overall feelings.
All Hail the New Flesh is just enormous. That kind of there's a double kick barrage near the start of it. And then it kind of falls out into this huge multi-layered scream with pads. The song's just relentless.
The vocals almost like machine heady to begin with, but then you realise that his voice is just like so much better than fucking Rolf Flynn's could ever be.
Townsend's a great singer.
His voice is fucking phenomenal. Incredible. Absolutely phenomenal. He can do everything with his voice, like actually everything.
You know, after that Steve Vai thing when he was singing with him, and then he said he spent the first 5 years of his life being a musical whore, just working at the behest of other people on other projects, and that was a big part of why he
wanted his personality.
Yeah.
Well, All Hail to me is like ideal start because it kind of has everything that you want. It's got blast beats, it's got this mad chug, it's like all these elements of heavy that we were talking about earlier. I
like the phrase mad chug.
It's got mad fucking chug. It's got really memorable riffs as well. He knows a hook.
He does.
He's not just like a death metal, speed fiend or whatever. He like knows when to take it out with like big riffs and also with big choruses as well. He loves a fucking melody.
He knows how to deploy keys as well properly, which a lot of metal bands, particularly if you're thinking about power metal, just do it for the sake of it.
Yeah.
But he adds it in such a way where it just doesn't sound too cheesy. It sounds just right, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of that in this song, which is what kind of lifts the bridge into the chorus.
And then his voice has this sort of unhinged, chaotic, I am a fucking mental man.
Yeah, he definitely knows how to take the safety guard off.
But it's like, that's what's, and things like, Fear Factory or whatever. Fear Factory is very heavy.
It's quite controlled.
It's very controlled, and it's like,
that's why Fear Factory feels too clinical for me. I was never a fan. There's a couple of tracks like Self-Biased Resistor that are great, but generally speaking, they're a bit. I don't know. Right. It's cold.
Did any of you guys? Right? Yeah. Did any of you guys ever play a game? But back, I got this with the new Mac that my family bought in 1998. It was one of those iMac Bondi ones that came out.
The one,
and we with it came a game called MDK.
No? Oh yeah, fucking MDK, man.
Right,
yeah.
MDK was this sort of shoot 'em up, but it was third person. The graphics were really fucking interesting. It was really dark, and it was about, you know, like running around space. Our Earth had been invaded by weird things, but it had a fucking amazing sense of humor as well. Like the sort of sound design was great. It was really weird and wonky, and to me, like, this is like that. Rather than just being dark and I'm going to shoot everything, it's got this sense of humor to it as well. And for some reason, kind
of perverse and kind of
Whereas and also maybe like in terms of movie, if this is like sci-fi, I kept getting a Blade Runner vibe from the aesthetic and stuff like that. But you know what? It's actually more like The Fifth Element to me, in that it's got this sort of weird carnival-esque thing like that. Yeah. Whereas Fear Factory are just the Terminator.
Yeah.
Whereas this has like colours and shapes and way more personality.
No, you're right. There's a sense of camp almost, which is part of what made The Fifth Element distinct from a lot of those other kind of films in that genre. Yeah, we actually kind of skimmed over the aesthetic. I mean, I never really understood entirely what the concept of city was, but I know it's something to do. It was images of Tokyo on one of the covers that was released. It was all to do with like the neons and that kind of collage of like neon signs and Japanese writing because it's so beautiful. And
to me, it looked kind of like a sort of futuristic, you know, dark city. That sort of pan-Pacific, like Blade Runner. Yeah. That's why you get the Blade Runner, because it's got the sort of Oriental,
the mix of Seoul and as well, Hong Kong and Tokyo and stuff. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's like very sci-fi feel as well, you know.
But there's also I think it conveys. It's a hard thing to really summarise succinctly, but within cities that big, mega cities like Tokyo with 30 odd million people in a city where it's so huge, it's completely impersonal, and it's almost like human life within that city is sort of slightly devalued as a result, because, you know, everybody's so anonymous and it's so abundantly clear to you that you're insignificant. Like there's something about that aesthetic to this album that, even though the album can be quite self-deprecating and a bit silly almost, it's actually got a really dark concept behind it, and a very subtle one at that. You know, it doesn't call itself anything. It doesn't even call itself All Hail the New Flesh or anything dramatic. It just calls itself City.
Yeah,
it's very subtle, and there's something that you need to dig into that.
And
title.
I feel like it's nighttime rainy city rather than fucking.
It's like a youth
going to the park city,
which is ironically, for something that sounds like this, a masterstroke of understatement. You know what I mean? It's that's like fucking hell. When you listen to this, you're like, you can't believe it's got such it's an almost seemingly benign cover and title when you consider what most metal that sounds like this probably has, where it's like computer generated swirling tentacle shapes and all these kind of stuff, which he has been guilty of in other records. But again, it contributes to why this album is so intriguing.
It feels like a lot of the stuff, especially strapping young lad stuff, it's really interesting the way that it sounds quite digital but not cold, if that makes sense. It sounds digital and organic. Like a lot of the production is very much like that.
Synth and like pads is really warm.
I don't think that a cold album at all. No, like you say, I mean, even amongst the ranks of industrial music, and when compared to things like Fear Factory, it comes across a lot more analog, whether it actually is or not.
I also think it's really very cinematic.
It definitely is. I think that's the main thing that differentiates this record and the first record, even though the first record isn't really a record, from everything else, is this feels like it's got a lot more life in it. It's got a lot more life to it. It feels like there's a beating heart inside it.
But you can hear that sense of, you know, the cinematic aspect to it is informed by all of his other projects. And as much as I don't particularly like them, his a understanding of spectacle and of, you know, like you said, power metal and symphonic metal and the impact of strings, the impact of synths, the way they can be used to flesh things out, applying that then to something this heavy, it's actually a lot of his other work has come together so well under this one, not just project, but under this one manifestation of that project, and debatably to the same extent Alien. Not for me, but for a lot of people, I understand. the third track, Oh My Fucking God, is just superb. Like, it's the one that really hooked me on Strap On Young Lad, because it is just offensively brutal.
Those pinches are so good, man.
Yeah.
All the pinch harmonics are so fucking good.
There's a cover of it.
This is the one that starts off.
You know that?
Is it?
A cover of it by Cryptopsy kicking about. Yeah.
This is the one that's got that sample at the beginning that has, it's quite White Zombie-esque.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like his mind breaking.
It's got like a weirdly like soft moment at the start of it before it does that, just explodes. And it's got, right early on in it as well, it's got this beautiful motif with the double kick and the ride cymbal are mirroring each other. It's like little kind of flurries in the kick, ghosted by the flurries in the ride. It's really clever.
I think
drumming.
we need to give mad props to Gene Hoglan on drums.
Yeah, I mean,
this album.
I was actually reading the forums about Strap On Young Lad. There was people saying that he's a drummer that is massively under-acknowledged in the field, up against people that are far more high profile, but he is tremendous.
I mean, he is fairly, well known and like respected. He has worked with Fear Factory and a lot of the big sort of death metal bands as well.
But as a standalone name,
works with.
He doesn't have that.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't get that kind of Lombardo effect, or
But he does have the nickname the Atomic Clock.
That sums it up, really.
And yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Thunderous. Did anybody else notice that the scatted kind of vocals in the verse sound
basically
like
rapping?
Jet Pilot from System of a Down.
Yep,
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's basically rapping taken to it's basically what it is. Yeah.
Detox, like you said, it's quite. I felt like quite a Pantera kind of intro.
Yeah, it's
Detox.
I wrote here that it's like new metal taken to its most logical extreme point.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That riff is basically a new metal riff.
But it shifts for that though into a very Ministry-esque industrial
it's got
thing.
that halftime bit in the middle that's just total headbang as well.
Yeah, that's 3 minutes 10. That's like, it's really tuneful. That big anthemic.
Well, that's it.
Comes
He's
in.
got a really fucking memorable chorus once again.
Yeah.
And like really fucking works
This was
his
a
way around
single,
melody.
so,
Yeah. And then Houghton Nucleonics.
Nucleonics, the study of nuclei and nuclear energy. Yeah.
At home. Which feels like that's what he was doing in the studio.
Totally.
Just this mad.
Never seen Young Einstein?
Aye, yeah. Or
Where he
just this,
he basically uses his violin to channel entire like atomic bombs worth of energy. It does feel like Devin Townsend was hooked directly
he's
up to
just
that.
got this mad scientist feel to him, I think.
It's just immediately brutal, that song, isn't it?
It's short and it's absolutely fucking mental.
The guitar production's like a hammer.
Yeah. There's some kind of silly vocals in it that I quite like as well. He kind of gets a wee bit daft with that kind of.
He does that a lot, man. I love it.
There's a guitar bit about just before the 2 minute mark it's not a solo. It threatens to be a solo, but instead it just turns this really nasty shrill tone that cuts through everything. I think track 6 is a real standout in this album. Triple A.
This would be the start of the second half.
Yeah.
Side B pretty much.
Yeah.
See, when I first heard that, I was like, that's so fucking cheesy, man. Like, I can't get on board with that. But then as soon as I got halfway through the song, I was like, actually, he's
totally,
really, really clever the way he's built that.
Totally
it's
works.
fucking brilliant.
Because it's like a country riff, down. Because
the vocals mirror the riff, which then the vocals and the riff then, like, unified towards the end of the song.
Whispery kind of talked version of the vocals is quite odd against the rest of the album, but it builds up in such a good way. There's also a bit about just after 3 minutes 15, something like that, where the synth, like you said, the synth and the vox, and they all kind of merge into one, and there's just this wall of tone just comes over the whole mix.
And then just his big lyric, no one fucks with me.
Track 7, Underneath the Waves. I really like that song, actually. It's like, I really like this album, but this one
it starts,
really stands out.
And you think, this is right. He's keeping the pace or putting the pace back up, and it's like the fast punky one.
Yeah.
But then it's got like a really fucking proper chorus again, and a way more dynamic second half.
Yeah, it's got a Nine Inch Nailsy vibe. I thought that one as well. Yeah.
Tired of waiting. That sort of refrain is quite like a darker industrial sort of vibe. Yeah.
That big riff at 125 when it first comes in, it's just skull crushing, and it just, it's just so good, man. How he keeps doing that? He just keeps pulling fucking riffs out of nowhere and then making them sound like they're gonna get smashed in the face with a mallet. You know what I mean?
One critique I saw of this album, and I maybe kind of share it, right? So track 8, Room 429, it's not a Strapping Young Lad song, it's by a Cop Shoot Cop. I've actually got the vinyl sitting over there. It's from an album called Ask Questions Later, which is a really good album. A strange-ish choice, but not strange when you consider his influences and his eclecticism. However, I do think the timing of it on the album is wrong. I saw in a lot of forums folk were like, I love this song, but it should have been after Spirituality. Putting it in, I think it sits a little bit strange.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, for me, it's got this like sort of weird Western vibe, and it's also it's very theatrical and bombastic, and it's sort of like it's got a carnival sort of...
Totally, it's like a circus almost.
Cop Shoot Cop are quite an unnerving band. They're a really good band, and especially that album Ask Questions Later. It's tremendous, and they were straddling the noise rock scene. So they had a little bit of industrial. They appealed to the industrial side of things, which I think is why he chose it. But they were just as at home with bands like Unsane and Helmet and that kind of scene. You see them on the old posters with those very bands. A really cool band, worth investigating.
I actually think it works well in the context of the record because it's super creepy.
Yeah,
and Spirituality, it's like really expansive, so it's like a nice lead into that. I think I really like the way it works as the record.
Where it is.
I hadn't considered the sequencing, but it was a point that came up in a lot of the fan forums, and I have to admit, I was like, I saw where they were coming from. I do like it, but I'd rather it had been a bonus track. That was their arguments. In the same way Zodiac is on The New Black. Yeah, I can kind of get that. It's a different writer. It doesn't.
But I kind of like how it's still only 39 minutes if it's contained.
True.
And
it's a great cover as well.
Yeah, it just adds this weird sense of sort of space rock opera to it.
Yeah,
I think it broadens the horizons of the record even more. It does
have an element of cabaret to it, yeah, that's right.
And I like it.
As we said as well, Spirituality, I think, is their doomiest. I think that is you're right, they don't do as much of that.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they don't do as much of that, you're absolutely right, but that is, as you say, post-metal, hints at, like I was saying, Neurosis. think there's nods to the stuff that Old Man Gloom ended up doing. No doubt they listen to this, and does become like industrial metal later on, getting into the kind of Fear Factory territory.
The way it builds, it gets denser and denser and denser and denser until it gets to the end. It's so clever. He's such a clever writer.
Yeah,
you know, he's
a clever producer.
Yeah, very clever producer. The production of this song is so loud it almost sounds like it's clipping at points.
Oh, it does. The Devin Townsend stuff clips frequently. See, when you go through, he does it deliberately at points as well. Like, there's some tracks where the intro deliberately clips just as a fuck you, this is how loud I'm going to get. I don't think he necessarily meant it on the first album, like I mentioned earlier on, but I think he does mean it at other points. Yeah, like I said, just overarching. I really enjoyed researching this episode. This is like a lot of fun. It's so intense, and it should have been hard work, but honestly, debatably, it was far less hard work than some of the other heavy things we've had to research for it. And
it's a lot less hard work than some of his solo stuff as well.
The solo stuff, granted, is not
tough,
spectacular.
Tough.
Yeah, it's quite cheesy. Some of his solo stuff reminds me of this really cheeseball band called Vast, which I think was a solo project as well that was kicking about for a while in the late 90s.
I appreciate that side to him though, because he's obviously very good at channeling that kind of energy, because he
does well out of it, man. Yeah. He's got, it's bigger than Strapping Young Lad ever was. You know, it's not as good artistically in my opinion, but he's doing really well.
And you're playing with orchestras as well, man. Like, that's the sound of that video you sent me is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
just the sheer. And see what I found really interesting.
It's like to get that gig if you're a violinist and you're just, you know, I fucking knows what you listen to. The next thing you know, you're going up and you're performing this thing about a sock puppet that comes to Earth to find the ultimate cup of coffee, and you're just sitting there in front of like 5,000, 10,000 people. I don't know how many people were in that venue, but you're doing this massive production and you're one of 50 classically trained musicians playing this bananas gonzo fucking metal opera. That's got to be a trip.
The thing that impressed me the most about that as well is it's clear that he wrote all the orchestration, all the music for it as well, and you hear a lot of bands, particularly bigger bands, do stuff with orchestras and it's just not as interesting.
I'd imagine he wrote it on synth and then it was translated, and whether or not he did the translation directly, I think he would probably have, because he's so good on keys. I think he started doing a lot of piano. Apparently his first instrument was a banjo, by the way, and he was like 5. And his first track that he learned when he got a guitar was Motorhead by Motorhead.
He's just one of those really talented arseholes.
He's Prince, basically. He's basically a metal Prince.
Yes.
He's released just as many albums as Prince.
Somewhere between Phil Spector and Prince.
His hair is not quite as good as
the murder and domestic violence of Phil Spector, or the religiosity of Prince. There you go.
So yeah, I don't think we need to even ask what's going to happen with this record.
Yeah, I'd love to put this record in. I hope folk agree with us. I mean, granted,
I just want to go home and listen to it again. Right?
So a lot of people that listen to the show might struggle to actually listen to this record because it's so extreme. But if you do, and you're like, I can't believe these guys are asking me to listen to this album, please give it a chance.
Yeah, give it a chance. Listen to Detox is maybe like for the non-metaler, the one that you'll like, oh, I can see how you might enjoy that. Chug. And it's got a chorus.
I don't feel like I'm apologising for it, but I'm wary that it's so extreme that it might really alienate people, yet there is so much more to it than your average metal.
It's got so much personality to it than your average metal album.
Please don't just lump it in with the dumb, ugly, monster obsessed satanic trad shit that you see. It's really, there's a lot more going on in this record than that.
Look, our fans, we've not had every single metal record that we've put up for the discography has went in.
No,
I believe in our fans.
Wait a minute,
every single one.
What?
I think that's right.
That's true.
What about that first one we did?
What, At the Gates?
Yeah, that's in. Yeah, that
did At the Gates go in?
Yeah, man, it's a classic.
There is no God.
Stone cold classic, son.
So I believe in our fans, man. I think they'll put this one into.
Right. Well,
we have faith in you, fans.
Couple of things. So we're winding down. Can we ask you again if you dig this, or if you have a metaler pal, or metaler wife, or metaler husband, or metaler life partner, or metaler dog? Tag them into this, get them on the case, see if they enjoy it. We'd love some shares, because that's really going to be the most organic way for us to grow this without giving loads of cash to Mark Zuckerberg. And yeah, we really appreciate it whenever you do that. We're also going to, as we promised, we're going to work on a couple of mixtapes to try and give contributors some bonus material. We're open to suggestion, by the way, for these mixtapes. We got a really good one yesterday that we're going to keep to ourselves, but I think it's definitely going to happen. So if you have ideas for mixtapes, please just drop us a line on the page. We're really into that. Mark, next week is your choice. Would you care to fill us in, Biggin?
Yeah, I've got to do Black Sails in the Sunset by AFI.
Yes. You could barely even say it. He's smiling so hard. It's like...
Yeah, Black Sails in the Sunset by AFI. We're going to do that one next, so...
they have a massive back catalogue.
It's not that big. Not compared to Devin Townsend.
11 albums and 8 EPs?
Technically 10 albums, but yeah.
Okay.
One's a live album.
Alright, well, we'll get in the case of that. Thanks for listening. Dave, any words of wisdom for the people going about their lives for the next 7 days?
Hey, listen to Strapping Young Lad.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah, go vote on our Facebook page. That's also kind of important.
Oh yeah, do the vote, get it in. You can't just rely on it.
Voting is important, especially if you're American and your midterms are coming up in November. Get your fucking finger out and get that maniac out of power. Well, at least get the Congress under
control.
I think you might have just swung it there, Chris.
Yeah, I think I have.
I think this is going to make the difference.
Well, to be honest, if making fun of a rape victim and making fun of a disabled person hasn't yet convinced people, I don't know what chance I've got.
Fair point. Well, thanks guys.
Goodbye.